By the time Pocahontas came out, the only other Disney princess arguably as sexualized as Pocahontas was Princess Jasmine, and the year after that, Esmeralda.
Look at that disgusting display. Yes, sir.
Funny that.
Well, how do you do?
According to an interview with Glenn Keane from 1995, we are doing a mature love story here, and we have to draw her as such. She has to be sexy. This is a Disney version. This is not a documentary. This may seem, harmless, but these media trends mirror very real problems in the real world to this day. Even now, Native American women are twice the national average in reported rapes and sexual assault, and those are just the ones that get reported. Media trends of sexualizing Indigenous women do not exist in a bubble. But the worst hangover I get from Pocahontas is how it reinforces this comfortable lie that white Americans are fed from birth. That things were a little tense at first, but ultimately the whites and the natives got along and everything was fine. Like seriously, the movie both sides is the whole issue. Yeah, the English had guns and smallpox and decades of driving the natives off their lands, but the Powhatans jerks too, you guys.
Savages, savages.
Killers at the core. They're different from us, which means they can't be trusted.
Wait. The Indians calling the Europeans savages? Mind blown. The studio purported a desire to honor Native Americans, and I'm sure there is some truth to that. But at the end of the day, the film just kind of reinforces this myth of the founding of the country that we are force-fed from birth, like a goose being fed for pâté. But not everyone reads it like that. According to Russell Means, this film is the finest feature film ever done about American Indians in the history of Hollywood. It's so revolutionary, it shocked me when they showed it to me. The first thing that shocked me was the truth. The Eurocentric males are admitting why they came here, to kill Indians and to rob and pillage. That's never been done before. This is also the first time, other than on Northern Exposure, that a human face has been put on an Indian female. Here is this young woman who is wiser than her father or any man in the village, and she causes peace to reign. It's beautiful. Without going too deeply into it, let's just say that Russell Means is somewhat controversial in the activism world. Russell Means was the actor who played Pocahontas' father in the film. He was also a Lakota Sioux activist for Native American rights and a leader of the American Indian movement in the 1970s, helping to organize the standoff at Wounded Knee in 1973. According to the LA Times, Russell Means brought instant legitimacy and authenticity to Pocahontas. "I haven't abandoned the movement for Hollywood," said Means. "I've just added Hollywood to the movement." The entertainment world is a powerful venue for revolution, particularly now that there are 500 channels on the horizon and the global market is so big. Many of Means' former activist colleagues did not agree with his interpretation on the media, or that he was helping to champion the causes he purported to champion by the media he was participating in. But my point here is that the legacy of Pocahontas is more complicated than thing good or thing bad. So, cultural appropriation. RIP comment section.
Mina psycho arigato kawaii.
I'd like to take it back a few dozen steps and talk about some of these theoretical terms that have become politically loaded over the last few years, particularly cultural appropriation.
Go ahead and look at me.
As a theoretical term, cultural appropriation is neither bad nor good. It just describes a sociological phenomenon. It may have deleterious or positive effects on certain groups, but the term itself is neutral. Cultural appropriation is the adoption or use of elements of one culture by members of another culture. That's all it is. That's what I mean when I say cultural appropriation is a neutral term. For instance, the fact that I wear a clotter ring, this is a form of cultural appropriation. I'm not Irish. I studied Irish when I was in college. I actually have a minor in Irish studies, but I don't know if I have any Irish ancestry. I might not. If I do, it's so far back in the ancestry line as to be completely irrelevant. So this is actually a form of cultural appropriation.
Hit it!
If you happen to be American and want a more subjective understanding of what cultural appropriation in movies even is, one of my favorite examples is from a 2003 Bollywood movie called Galhonaho.
I'm crazy about you, pretty woman.
This movie takes place in New York. This was filmed in Toronto. And yeah, this is a form of cultural appropriation. I like to use this example because unless you're super into anime, most Americans haven't experienced media that has American culture on the other end of cultural appropriation. Americans are so used to being the dominant producers of media that we aren't accustomed to seeing what it's like to be portrayed by a culture that does not care if their product sells in American markets. The fact that cultural appropriation is, in theory, a neutral term leads to a lot of false equivalencies, i.e., why is this form of cultural appropriation okay, but Gwen Stefani dressing as a sexy warrior is not okay? Well, it's a complex issue, and there is a lot of intersection over race and class and gender, but here is a general rule of thumb. If it is a culture that was historically exploited by colonialism, appropriating a historically colonizing culture, no harm, no foul. No one gets mad at Mexico for appropriating elements of German culture. Unless you happen to live in LA and that's all that's on the radio. If it is a historically colonialist culture appropriating a culture that was exploited by colonialism, then people start to get a little cranky. Obviously, there are intersections and complexities, but for simplicity's sake, I'll leave it there for now. But I think most people would agree that, unlike something like Pocahontas or even Slumdog Millionaire, a movie which pretty much every Indian I've ever talked to is not a fan of, this kind of cultural appropriation is basically harmless.
Got to feel it right, just like day after night. Don't let the sun shine out of your sight.
This is what I mean by cultural appropriation being a neutral term. Not all cultural appropriation is created equal. So I think the real question people want the answer to is where the line is between positive examples of representation and harmful cultural appropriation. And that's the problem. There isn't really a line.